wonder, and I think your inclination might be to say no to this right off the bat, but maybe give it a
No.
second. um, what do you think religion has to do to play in with that? Because people are more. I'm not religious. You're not religious. You know. Do you think that if we were religious, Christians, for example,
Hmm.
do you think that having that fallback or that foundation, that social environment, community, do you think that is a bulwark against these feelings?
It helps for sure.
So why don't you and why don't I indulge in that?
I don't believe in God. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't disbelieve in him, but I don't believe in him. Um, and I also just don't like groups. I understand. I like religion a lot. I really do. I respect it a lot, and I respect its place. And I'm not so stupid as to notice that the more society gets away from creating communities amongst themselves, the weaker we get, and the more miserable and powerless we become. Uh, but I just, actually, in a way, I do believe in God, and I am kind of religious. But my religion's always been very personal. So one-on-one with God. I just have a natural, you know. I hate groups. I
Yeah.
respect groups, understand their purpose, and I understand their power. And if I had a family, I would probably force myself to try to go, just to create that environment for my kid and for my wife. They make friends and family friends, and it's an easy way for that stuff. But as a single guy that doesn't have that voice inside of him, that tells him it's true, I just don't. It would feel hollow and fake
Yes.
to sit there and listen to the interpretations of God through a person who I don't respect or trust's ability to create those interpretations. I mean, and I did it. I grew up doing it a lot, especially when my aunt and uncle adopted me. I had to go. Um, but again, there's a lot of stuff that I do think that if I had a family, I would do. But without having that, I don't. I don't have the motivation. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I know
It's
what you
like
mean.
at the end of the day, I plan on killing myself. At the end of the day, the only thing I can envision in my fucking future is jumping from someplace high or fucking putting a gun in my mouth. That's it.
Yeah.
That's how I see it going. I don't see much of a future for me, but I still respect the institution. I think especially um, less than the organization itself, but the community you build within that organization. There's a lot of family friends that I am friends with that I do respect and love that are been friends with my family from those church for years. Whenever I go visit my aunt and uncle, a few of them are always there with their families, and it's good. And I love those people. They're a part of my life and a good part. Um, but just as a single guy, I mean, I'm just kind of there's nothing for me to hang on to here.
Yeah.
You know, I
Well,
don't I don't like anything. I don't enjoy anything, and I don't have a reason to find joy.
you know, I hate it. If I were you, I would hate hearing this from me.
Mhm.
But I am married with a family, and I feel the exact same way you do, man. You
Mhm.
know, like I feel like an imposter at church, like that I'm there in secret, and that if I'm found out, people would be angry that I was there, and I find the whole experience to be cringy. I don't like the music. I think the people are all weird and plasticky in a way, kind of like they're NPCs, sort of, you know. Um, and
Like 70%.
yeah, and like the over emotional, the music and like it's just kind of stupid. It seems like it's meant for women and children, I guess.
But again, it is in a way.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you go. And you go there so that you have, a setting for your kids. Like my church experience, even though I hated it, and I lost my religion because of that church. But again, a lot of those people are good people that I love and respect. But it's the organization of the church that I hate. However, especially as I got older and can understand that pointless things that are pointless aren't always pointless. So these pointless traditions, it's the meditation involved with them that actually has meaning. It's the time with quiet, with self-reflection that matters. It's being near other people that are engaged in that self-reflection that is beneficial. Uh, and again, I think there's few places that are better to take your kid, I think, than church. Especially when she gets old enough to where she needs friends, but she's not old enough for schools and stuff.
Mhm.
And it's a place where you might not agree with most people, but your morals are probably like 80% aligned.
If I were
They're
religious, I
pretty
would be
close to
Christian.
aligned.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I would go to a Christian church too. I think they get it closest. I go back and forth on God. I think it's just as likely that there is a creator as there is not. Um, and again, I go back and forth. There's so many things where you're kind of like, yeah, it's kind of hard to imagine that exists through chance, even infinite chance.
Yeah. I'm
And
personally.
especially if you look at physics, like if you look at physicists, which is funny because the higher up in education you go, the less religious people are, except for in like advanced mathematics and physics, where it's the same trend, but then you get really high and it starts to go back the other way, where you actually get like more and more people that are religious. Uh, the higher up in the physics and math they go. So
It's like the more you know, the more you find
yeah.
out you don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
there's errors in math that are inconsistent, and once you get to that level of mathematics where you understand that, I think it does start to lose the determinism belief.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong. So my position is I'm agnostic. I do
Yeah,
think that there is something superior to us. I don't claim to know what it is. In fact, I don't think anybody knows what or who it is. I'd be more willing to wait and find out than make assumptions. I think that the God preached by Christianity should be allotted a certain percent chance of being factual. I would maybe give it a 2% chance. I think I just think it's naive to jump to conclusions, and I don't think the Bible's enough. I don't think there's enough real evidence. Um,
well,
and
the Bible,
faith.
even the Bible, even if you think it came from God, you still have to understand it was interpreted by man. So that means it's 80% off base, changed and manipulated. You look at what just the Catholic Church has done with the Bible itself. I mean, they were using it as justification to rape virgin women in their own homes to give blessings and forgivenesses for other sins. I mean, again, that's just power. If you look at the Bible truly and the words that it is and the meaning that comes from it, not the like literalism of it, it's very anarchist. Well, really, it's monarchist, but a lot of anarchists become monarchists, which is very weird. But it's very you know, hey, you have to follow the rules of man, but don't believe in the rules of man. You got to do what Caesar says, but do not worship Caesar as God. These are all very practical, realistic things if you look at them as 10,000 years of acquired knowledge of humans put into words in a way that most people would understand for those times. You know what I mean? Like if you look at them as allegories, there's not like I mean there's some stuff that's just wacky, but a lot of it, you can pull out true allegories that are just factually based, that are, undeniable. and 90% of the goddamn book, I mean, so much of the books are just so plainly factual if you don't look at facts as facts, but you look at the truth behind the words as facts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Jordan Peterson talks a lot about that. Like a lot of times, like, you know, the facts can be lies, and a truth, the deeper truth, can come from fiction. You know what I mean? He talks about that in his Maps of Meaning, if you ever watch that, which I recommend.
Yeah, I have.
Great, you know, where it's like, yeah, it's the allegory, it's the essence of what they're saying that's true, not the fucking words. And you'd have to be a fucking idiot not to understand it, which most people are. I do think to get to that level, again, this is, I think, a good point about the intelligence thing, where a dumb person might take it literally, but they still understand the meaning of it.
The narrative.
And so they, even though they take it literally, they're still like being guided by the truth of it. A person that's slightly smarter is like, this is dumb. Someone's gonna get eaten by a whale. This is all dumb. So then they live falsely. And then you go above that intelligence to where you're like, no, 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 no. The words don't matter. It's the essence of what they're saying that's the truth. And you live through the truth of it, again, just like the dumb person does. So, you know, I think, and again, I also think that, you know, if there is a God, it could be these different religions are meant to teach people in these subset regions culturally ways to live, to survive in those regions. And not that there's necessarily all these different gods that they're competing. I mean, the God of Abraham is the same God that 6 billion people on this planet worship. So, and also, all 6 billion of those people are the most successful societies. So there's some truth there, right? There's something about Christianity that's true. If anyone that followed it is also the people that dominated and grew the most successful, powerful, opulent, comfortable, safe societies in the entire fucking planet, there's gotta be something there. You know, and whether there's a guy in the sky or not, these are still truths that were gleaned over probably even more than 10,000 years, over 30,000 years since we started speaking. These stories got refined and refined and refined over time and over time. That's why they appear in these religions all over the world, because a lot of them originated before we even split out of Africa. And there's these truths that have lasted that long because they're undeniable, regardless of what you think about a man in the sky or organized religion. You know, and I think taking your kid to church and teaching them that level of it, in conjunction with the society forming strength and creating bonds with others and this stuff, you know, you create a power base. And also, the government wants to destroy it. And anything the government wants to destroy, I'm kind of for. Mm-hmm. Because that means they're afraid of it. And if they're afraid of it, it means there's a power within it that rivals their own.
Sure.
And
yeah.
I think power belongs in the hands of the people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, agreed 1,000%.
That.
Yeah, well, the family is the most localized government there is. And the more locally you can make a government, the better it's run. Mm-hmm. And the less control the umbrella government has over any single person. You know, and, you know, I would almost go as far, and I've thought this before, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say it. I'm sure it's been implied by plenty of people. But that the Bible was really just kind of an early form of setting up a foundation for a government, rules and laws for the people to abide by. You know, you follow these 10 commandments, you go to heaven. You don't, you go to hell. Spooky, right?
Positive and negative reinforcement.
Exactly. And as far as the idea of God goes, I think that what would be more likely, and I don't know if I've actually ever heard anyone say this, again, I'm sure plenty of people have had this idea, but imagine where we are right now on Earth, and add 1,000 years of technological advancement, human experience, and knowledge, and we're wondering, oh, well, how can we preserve humanity? Well, one good answer might be, well, let's start a Genesis program where we launch out all these seed packets to different solar systems, hoping that at least some of them, with these amino acids and different things, can potentially form life. And I think that that might be a way that we got here. And I think that maybe, some of these UFOs and things are just our ancestors who sent the Genesis packets here. They're just people, we'd call them extraterrestrials, but they're the ones that gave birth to us here, and maybe are even visiting us here, and maybe they don't even know who God is. But to us, that would be our first level of God, would be them, and then maybe they might have an answer as to how they got there, or some different theory about how they got to that point.
Well, there's also like other dimensions. I almost believe in the what's it called? Like the artificial intelligence theory, where
Simulation?
Simulation theory. Just as much as God. Really the best. I was watching this like major mathematician. It was a few years ago, so I remember very few of the details. But he was a what's it called? It's like a fancy word for creationist. But he wasn't a Christian or any specific relationship. But he believed that there was a creator of the universe, and I forget what it's called, and it's something. It's like 2 letters is like the thing. It's almost like AI, but it's similar to that. But really, any religion falls under that umbrella, and I think it really comes down to you only have 2 options, and to me. Where I look at it, with my limited ability to understand, it's about 50-50, Either it is an accident, or something or someone created the universe. Now, whether that's a simulation within a simulation within a simulation, or a god within a god, or, whatever. It both sides make about as much sense to me. Truly. And honestly, I'd say that's not even true. I'd say I'm probably 60% created, 40% random chance. I lean a little bit more towards some sort of creator than non-creator.
Be it extraterrestrial or phenomenal?
Yeah, but even extraterrestrial, I would say, like the universe, I'm thinking more than just humans. I'm thinking the entire universe. The way physics is in this universe. I believe there's probably 60% chance there's a creator of it. 40% chance not.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the kid asking why. It's like, how far back can you go asking, well, how did that get there? How did the universe get there? How did God get there? What's the exact origin, and what kind of space did that blossom from?
The thing is, with a God, it answers that question, like, it stops one of those questions, because if you have a creator, there doesn't necessitate anything beyond that, right?
Well, except for how did God get there?
always was. It's just how things are.
That's hard to believe, though, for me at least.
No, because there's always a background. There's always going to be something that this was pasted on, right?
Yeah, but that's
And so
hard. That's hard to interpret.
That's the origin. It might be hard to interpret, but it is what it is. And so that answers that. There just is, and that's what things are. There was no creating. It always was. Time is not real. This is just what it is. This God world, right? Our rules have space and time, which necessitates questions. And those questions have answers. And therefore, the way determinism works and the way our understanding of the universe works is there is always something that created something. If you have a creator, and it doesn't have to be a person or even a true intelligence, but even a miasma, like a whatever, there is the possibility that it's just like there is no time, a suspended thing. It's like this just is what this is, and then our rules were created from that by something. But the other alternative of randomness and chance, that can't be answered because there is always why, and there is always what happened before that. There you will always continue to look and look and look because there has to be a start point based on the rules that we have.
And that's the crazy thing, is that we don't have the full rule book. There's a rule book that exists outside what we know.
Yes.
And probably ever will know.
But with a God, or, some sort of creation, that rule book could be these things that you think of don't exist. These ideas of science and all this, I created for your minds to understand, but those things don't exist. We all are and have been.
That's interesting. It is interesting.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's why I give it like 60% that way.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's
because just the way we understand science, if you follow that rabbit hole, the closest thing you could come to is rubber banding type of infinite thing. And in a way you get to the same answer, but it's just like, this artificial pops, but they always happen and always happen in an infinite loop. But there can be no true answer with how we understand things, and especially the way the human mind's capable of interpreting it.
Yeah,
so only one way has a real answer, truly. That would be fathomable by us.
And it all falls under the umbrella of a god of some sort.
Yeah.
Some kind of creator.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a bit of a scapegoat, but I mean, that's the best that there is, I guess, for the moment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And again, to me, it's like using the logic we have access to. It's like 60-40. Like it's not, I'm not convinced totally one way or the other.